Welcome to The Weird Shack, the podcast that explores the weird and spooky. I'm your host, Ollie Tobbles, with my co-hosts, Reeski.
Hello.
Siege.
Hello.
And Jordan with Stick.
Hello, Shackers.
And today we're talking about demons. Right, so I will start off today. So mine's about the Annabelle doll.
Ooh.
Alright, so the Annabelle doll, the Annabelle doll, the anime doll from the Conjuring films is actually a real doll. It's a doll that lives in Ed and Lorraine Warren's spooky museum of different cursed, haunted, and evil artifacts. When the director of the films wanted to make the doll look more creepy, so he didn't go for the Raggedy Ann doll that she actually was. So the story goes as Donna, a nursing student, on her 28th birthday, her mum gave her a present in 1970. So her mum bought this Raggedy Ann doll from a hobby store that was used already. So Donna and her friend Angie were living together. They're roommates. And they didn't think the doll anything special. They were like, oh, my mum's bought me a present. Okay, fair shout. But over the time, they noticed that Annabelle started moving on her own. So, it was so subtle at first, just changing slight positions. They thought maybe someone moved it, or the wind might have knocked it down, or she went for a poo and came back and didn't know what position she was sitting in. But, the movements increased.
Where'd you add that bit? I don't feed together.
But yeah, the movements increased, and within a few weeks, she became fully mobile. The girls were like, "Oh fuck, shit, what's going on?" The girls would leave the apartment with Annabelle. She doesn't have this name at the moment. She's just a Raggedy Ann doll.
Right.
On Donna's bed, and return home to find it on the couch.
Oh my god.
Watching The Simpsons.
Yeah, obviously. But their friend Lou, I guess he's a dude. Yeah, he's a dude. He hated the doll, and he had vibes, feeling it was evil. But the girls were like, nah, I didn't believe in that sort of thing. But soon the Annabelle doll's actions got creepier. Donna began to find small pieces of parchment paper around the house with the writing "Help Us" or "Help Lou" just scattered around the whole house, and they were like, "Oh shit, we don't have parchment paper. What's going on?" So yeah, all that carried on. One night, Donna returned home to find Annabelle in her bed with a bag of cookies, and Annabelle said, "You want a biscuit?" No, but seriously,
Did you actually say that?
yeah,
In a demonic voice.
yeah.
Do you want a biscuit?
You want a biscuit? Anyway, but seriously, the doll had blood on her hands, like a blood-like liquid that seemed to be coming out of the doll itself. So she thought, "Fuck
those
the
cookies."
shit." She thought, "Fuck the shit," and burnt it then and there, and that's it. That's the end of it. No, she rang up a medium, not to be confused with a small.
Right. Yeah. Or a large.
Yeah, or a large. But the complex had been built on a field on that property, and a 7-year-old girl called Annabelle Higgins had been found in that field. So when the doll came into the house, the girl latched onto it. The girl liked Donna and Angie, so she wanted to stay with them. Being the sweet and nurturing type, as they were both nursey types, Donna and Angie agreed to let Annabelle to stay with them. And then when shit got super duper real, biscuits were found everywhere around the house.
Whoa, what messy doll.
Yeah. Lou started having bad dreams where Annabelle was in his bed climbing up his leg as he laid frozen, sliding up his chest to his neck, closing her stuffed hands around his throat, choking him with her soft, fluffy, feeling hand stumps. He would wake up feeling terrified, head pounding, with all his blood being cut off to his brain. He was freaking out. He was worried about the girls. A few days later, Angie and Donna were chilling, taking it easy, planning a road trip for some reason. When they heard something moving around Donna's room. They froze. Was it a spooky ghost? Was it the cabbage squinch? Reese? There was an intruder in the apartment. Lou crept over to the door, listening to rustling within. He threw open the door, and everything was so it should be. Except Annabelle was off the bed, sitting in the corner. He approached the doll. Lou was consumed with the feeling. A burning on the back of his neck indicated someone was staring at him. As he spun around, no one was there. The room was empty, and sudden pains in his chest. He looked underneath his shirt and saw claw marks burnt into his flesh. He knew Annabelle had done it with her soft, plush hands. The weird claw marks began healing almost instantly. They were gone within 2 days, and there was no wounds no wounds any of them had ever seen before. They knew they needed more help. So they gave an old priest a cheeky phone call. Alright, mate, got some spooky doll here. Moving around, writing on paper, giving me scratches.
Eating my biscuits.
So the priest called Ed and Lorraine Warren. It didn't take the Warrens long to come to the conclusion there was no ghost girl, but it was one of Beelzebub's mates, an inhumane spirit, a demon attached to the doll. But they warned that the doll wasn't possessed. Demons don't possess things, only peoples. It was clinging It was clinging to the doll, manipulating it in order to give the impression of a haunting. The target was really Donna's soul. The priest performed an exorcism on the apartment, and the Warrens took possession of the doll. They put it in a bag, just a bin bag, and began the long drive home. Ed agreed to stay off the highway because it was a concern that the demons might turn the indicators on or wind the windows down. So they drove the back road in case the demon would fuck up their car. The engine kept cutting out, the power steering kept on failing, and the brakes gave them trouble. Ed opened the brag, sprinkled the doll with biscuit crumbs and holy water, so the disturbance stopped for the moment.
What biscuit crumbs?
Because she likes biscuits. Ed left the doll next to his desk. It began levitating. That happened a couple of times, and then it seemed to just quit, finally laying quiet. But in a couple of weeks, Annabelle was back to her old tricks. She started appearing in different rooms in the Warrens' house. Sensing the doll was about to power up into its ultimate form, the Warrens called a Catholic priest to exorcise Annabelle. The priest didn't take it seriously, telling Annabelle, "You're just a doll. You can't help anyone." Big mistake. On his way home, the priest's brakes failed, and his car was wrecked in a horrible accident. But he survived. It was cool. Eventually, the Warren built a locked case for Annabelle, and it resides there to this day. The locked case seemed to have kept the doll from moving around, but it seemed that whatever terrible entity was attached to it was still there. A couple of I think it was a biker and his girlfriend. They came and tapped on the window and laughed at it and stuff. And when he was driving home, he crashed his bike.
Oh.
Yeah, I've heard that story before.
Yeah.
Did he die?
So, no, I don't think he did die.
What? I like how she makes people have accidents, but no one dies in the accidents.
No, I'm pretty sure he died. Well, at least I think I remember hearing that.
He might have.
How did they know she was powering up? Was there a yellow aura around her and she was screaming for a really long time?
Her hair was turning yellow.
I think so. Yeah.
They're over 4 episodes long, sort of thing.
Yeah, it took 4 episodes.
So, Reese, what do you think? Do you think Beelzebub has sent out a load of his boys to cause havoc on the world? Honest opinion, Reese.
It was Reese all along.
I think it's pronounced Beelzebub, by the way.
Beelzebub. It's called Beelzebub.
Beelzebub is funny though, but I think it's Beelzebub.
Yeah, it is Beelzebub. Yeah.
No, it's Beelzebub.
Okay, it's Beelzebub. He's a different guy. He's
Sounds like
mates
a
with
Pokemon.
But I doubt it.
Ooh.
I'd say it's probably like some
Lou.
loner sort of one who's just like wants some friends.
Oh, a loner demon.
Yeah, just wanted some friends. Like they've got no proof layers of Beelzebub's buddies. You know.
Boys. So you think it was a lone demon? He was like, I like this doll. I'm gonna be a little girl. Ate some biscuits, got some parchment paper, had a party, walked around the house a little bit.
See, my question
Wrecked
is
cars.
why after what was her name, Donna?
Yeah.
Why go after her though?
Because, I don't know, her mum... Like, demons just want souls, don't they? Her mum gave her the present, and she was like, oh, she's nice to me, I want a soul.
What I don't understand as well, you said that like there was this girl called Annabelle who died on the property before where they were living was built, right?
Yeah, so they got a basic priest out, and he was like...
He didn't know anything. That's why he was basic. He was like, oh yeah, there must be a girl called Annabelle who died around there. It's like, oh
no,
yeah,
because
cool.
a girl did die on the property.
Mm.
So they automatically was like, oh, it's fucking Annabelle, mate.
Right.
And that's how they got the name, but they still kept it after they knew it was a demon.
Right, so that's a misconception. It's not actually this girl Annabelle. It's supposed to be a demon.
Yeah, no, the demon is like pretending to be Annabelle.
Oh, okay.
So that Donna and all that would give them like,
Donna Kebab.
yeah,
That was the last name.
kebab.
Yeah.
That she could give them possession. Well, not possession. Give them more power to do shit around the house, I guess. Like
Right.
hoover under the couch and stuff.
Do a washing up and whatnot.
Yeah.
Just ask for
But-
biscuits in return.
But it's that Lou was like, I'm getting choked. Plush hands. Like, how heavy are some plush hands? Let's be honest.
Well, if he was dreaming
very
of it,
heavy.
then it's just whatever his imagination was.
If it was a demon in possession of it, then it could do what the fuck it wanted.
Yeah, because as
but
you said, the demon.
the demon doesn't possess the doll.
Yeah, I'd say like, so it would be like the demon, like choking him himself rather than the doll.
Mm.
Yeah, so like the
Doll was
demon's
just a
like,
vision of it, sort of thing.
Yeah. So the demon's like got his shoulder over his head, laying next to him on the left side. He's on the right side. The demon's like rubbing the doll up his leg, like pulling up his leg, and he's choking him with the other arm.
Yeah, he accidentally brushes his testicle. And it gets really awkward for a bit.
Yeah, fucking Beelzebub. What's he like?
The only problem I have with this like whole thing is the fact of that any common sort of like knowledge, you'd be like, oh, I don't want to be cool, so I'll just keep pretending to be this little girl rather
I
than...
don't think the ghost is. I don't think a demon's gonna get caught, mate.
Well, like he'd keep pretending to be Annabelle rather
Yeah, but
than
he's
doing
been caught
shit
out.
which... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Rather than doing like shit which would get him caught out as a demon, it makes sense just to, continue pretending to be a little girl rather than, doing more scarier stuff to get
But-
more attention to them.
Yeah,
If they
But
thought it
then-
was a little girl, they might have let it stay there.
Yeah.
but
Whereas
they did
with
think it was a
doing
little
this-
girl. After she started moving around more, and the parchment paper, they got the old priest, and he gave the Warrens a little call.
He was a level 2 priest.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
He
what I'm
got
saying.
into a
Like,
second stage.
like if the demon had just stuck to like, not doing the
Demon
worst shit. Yeah, like
Like scratching
Then-
people's backs and shit.
then they wouldn't have thought of if it had been a demon. They might have carried on thinking it was the spirit of the little girl.
Yeah, the demon kind of gave himself away when he started being a dick to Lou.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
he was jealous.
yeah. So like if demon didn't do that, then he could have got what he wanted. But
Yeah, but he did force the door open quite quickly. He might have been having a cheeky demon wank.
Oh yeah, good point.
Mystery solved.
Well,
but at the same time, I guess Luke could have been like sensitive to demon itself and its evil nature, and then he was like, "Shit, gotta get rid of him." And
or
Yeah,
maybe
it
it's
was
just
my
because it was a man and the demon wanted to have the two women to itself. And when another man came in, it was like, "I'll get away." So it was trying to scare it off.
man's
Whoa, you
approaching
saying
on his
that
territory.
demons are men?
No, I'm just saying that like maybe the demon, because it seems to have some sort of connection to women, because that's who it took a liking to. So maybe it had some sort of issue with him because he was a man, or maybe he was intimidated by it. I don't know.
I reckon Lou's been wrestling cats.
Mm.
It explains the scratches all over him.
What about
Yeah.
the burning feeling on his back of his neck when someone's staring at him? Another cat.
Yeah,
2 cats.
laser
Oh.
eye cat.
Yeah.
It was sunburn.
Yeah.
Barbie.
Been out in the sun too long.
Yeah, he'd been out in the sun all day, and he came over and his back was hurting a bit.
It was
He's just got super... Huh?
It was Beelzebub sending the demonic cats from the underworld.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, cats are supposed to be demonic, aren't
I thought they were
All
to
cats?
do like the occult or...
they? I just made that up.
I was
as far
gonna
as
say,
any
because the black cats are meant to be like...
Yeah,
Fucking...
they're supposed to be familiars, aren't
witches,
they?
familiars,
Yeah.
and shit, aren't they?
And also like the
supposed
Egyptians
to-
used to worship them kind of thing.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like magical conduits. That's the point of
Yeah.
a familiar, right? It's
I
like-
thought they
'cause-
were just felines, to be honest.
Yeah, no, they do like...
In an
they
occult
sell
sense.
like... Yeah, they sell like black cat bones in shops and stuff.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
How would you?
Yeah.
There's no way to prove that shit.
You-
They
you- I
they
guess
just
you
give you a
can't prove
bone, and then it's like, yeah, it's black cat bone. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
but they sell graveyard dirt as well and stuff like that.
Mm.
You
Just
get all
basically
in, like-
dirt from their garden.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. If everyone was selling this graveyard dirt, there'd be no graveyards because they would have been dug up. There'd be a big hole in the ground where graveyards.
Don't worry. There's more soil where that came from.
But yeah, you
And I'll
get
just
like there's like rituals to like go to crossroads, right? You take like
Yeah.
Waro flower, I think it's called, something like that. You get a
Wario.
Wario flower, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a fire flower.
It's got a big mustache.
Anyway, you get this yarrow. It's called yarrow, a yarrow
Mm.
flower. You get some graveyard dirt. You get a box, your picture, put a bit of black cat bone in it, and you offer your soul up to the devil.
Oh, I thought you were
And
saying you
he-
off yourself. He said you offer.
And he comes to you as a friendly face, but like he takes your soul.
Mm.
Hmm.
What's the point in that ritual?
You're meant to get like a wish from him.
Oh,
But-
so you're like
but-
exchanging. It's like that whole thing of like selling your soul to the devil in exchange for something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's meant to like manipulate you.
Right.
Like if you go, oh, I want a big dick, he makes it like 40 feet.
Yeah, he's like a monkey paw. He gives
Yeah.
you a wish, but it's like a bent version of what you actually want.
Mm.
So you're like, oh, I want to be the smartest man in the world. He'll make you really smart, but you also be in a coma, so you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So in the films, I haven't actually seen any of the Annabelle films.
Mm-hmm.
Do they like cover this story, or is it just like about the?
It's like very loosely covered.
Mm.
I don't remember, like, at the start of the film, they do I'm pretty sure they do a very quick, like one of those things where it's like,
A summary.
yeah, it's like a video recording of them sitting down on a couch and they're, like, telling
Oh.
what happened.
Like a documentary style like interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure the Conjuring films, it's like Annabelle's like the background baddie.
Hmm.
So like I can't remember what the first film's about.
It's based around that couple, right?
Yeah. So it'll be other stories. Like the second one's about the Crooked Man,
Yeah.
and like they go back to like the house and Annabelle's there, and they have like a creepy scene where it's like she's like sitting in the room with her daughter, and then they go into the the museum and she's still in there kind of stuff.
Mm.
Where it's like low key, spooky stuff.
Mm.
But yeah, she's like she only becomes like super spooky in like the third film because it's about her, I think. But yeah,
I see. That's
Where's
interesting.
where was the doll held now? The occult museum or something?
yeah,
right?
you can go visit it. It's Ed and Lorraine's just, I think it's called Creepy
Yeah.
Museum.
I've seen
Yeah.
pictures of it before in the box.
Yeah,
I remember seeing the guys from BuzzFeed got the Rick and Carl or whatever they're called.
yeah, Ryan and
Rick and
Carl.
Morty.
Ryan and something else.
Oh, close.
Morty, check it out, Morty, it's a doll.
It was close.
gee, Rick.
There's so many stuff I'd like to visit like that.
I don't like dolls, so I'd have to burn it or something. And
Have you
throw it
seen
in
that?
the bin.
Have you seen Raggedy Ann dolls before?
Yeah, I don't like any dolls.
They're just like soft dolls. They're not hard at all, are they?
Yeah,
They're just
no.
like they're
I
basically
have a
like
phobia of
plush.
dolls.
Maybe
I'm
put a
big
picture
phobia.
up of Raggedy Ann, so that people know.
What about Raggedy Andy? Would that scare you, Chris?
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything remotely like a doll, or anything with those with horrendous eyes on it and a weird ass
doesn't
smile. No thanks.
Really have that because it's just like a soft toy more than it is like a China doll. Whereas like in the horror films, Annabelle's depicted as like a China doll,
Yeah.
isn't she?
Yeah.
My
Yeah, it's not
my
good.
fear of dolls originates from my grand's house. Scary times. Basically, I don't know why, but there was a period where I slept in my gran and granddad's room when I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6, and they had a massive display case. My grand's. They had model cars, like scurry-looking clowns, Victorian dolls, and
Yeah.
weird Raggedy Ann dolls as well. And she'd have to cover it up every night. It was absolutely traumatizing. That I remember waking up one night and just like the moon was sort of where their house was. The moon would shine through the window really clearly, and the light just reflected off that display case. Oh my god, it was like the scene from a horror movie. Honestly, I'd sooner sleep in a
like
graveyard.
Poltergeist. That
I
bit in
never had
Poltergeist
like
with
that.
the clown.
Yeah, I don't like clowns either.
It is that thing though, like when you're in like a room and it's dark, and you like hallucinate seeing different things, don't you?
Yeah, it's true.
There's that thing you can do. It's quite easy to do. If you go in a room with a mirror with like low light, and you just like stare at yourself in
Yes.
the reflection, your mind like hallucinates stuff, and it like makes you like your face will like morph and stuff.
Morphed. Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
tried it. I've heard about that.
I've
tried
done it,
that.
I've done it before.
I've
Oh, is
tried
it
it
weird?
before.
Did it work?
Yeah.
See, it didn't work for me. It just sort of stayed normal.
That's because you look like a monster, Chris.
I,
No, I'm joking, I'm joking.
I wonder if it's because you're blind in
Oh,
one
actually-
eye. That might actually be part of it.
Hmm?
I wonder if it's because you're blind in one eye. That might actually have an effect on it.
Could be.
Because I think it's what it basically is it has the effect on your peripheral vision where like your peripheral vision on both your eyes gets sort of like mixed up and it makes the image distorted. Because when I had it, I was looking in the mirror and like the right of my face was like shifting down, like just the right side. So it looked like the right side of my face was melting.
So like a common stroke kind of look.
Yeah, but even more dramatic than that, like literally it
Yeah.
was like shifting downwards. Like it isn't a thing that could naturally happen to you. But it's kind of like, it reminds you of like the sort of stuff you see in your peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like when you like sleep and you see like a jacket and you're like, oh, there's a guy there.
Yeah.
I'll have to try it together sometime at Reese's house.
Well, yeah, there's one you can do with two people where you stare at each other as well in the dark, and it makes the person you're looking at makes their face shift around. So maybe we should do that at some point.
Next week.
Yes. Tomorrow.
Do you know there's a owl man in Falmouth?
Yeah.
It's
You told
pretty
us
cool.
about this before.
Apparently there's a sighting of it quite recently
Yeah.
around the church. It's pretty cool.
Maybe the owl man brings coronavirus.
Maybe.
Maybe he's got Annabelle, mate.
Maybe. Maybe they're
Throw it at your head.
Why would you have it?
Why not? For shits and banter.
They're mates.
Shits and giggles.
Right, shall I do my bit now? Or
Yes,
Is there anything else you want to
Yeah.
talk about? Okay, so I'm going to talk about this thing. There was a documentary. It's on Netflix right now. It's called Belief: The Possession of Janet Moses. Don't know if any of you guys have heard of it.
Possibly. It depends
The
on the
name
story.
doesn't ring a bell, but
Okay, well, basically, it's about this thing called a Makutu lifting. So I'll read what I've written down. When it comes to the concept of a demon, the more Western idea is a devil or an evil spirit, a being from hell who torments the sinners. However, in other cultures, a more vague or spiritual idea is used, such as what I'll be talking about today. Makutu is the Maori language. In the Maori language of New Zealand, it's basically their equivalent to witchcraft or sorcery, though it can be described as a curse. It's described in the documentary Belief: The Possession of Janet Moses as a bad spirit, almost like a karmic aura that brings bad to those who do bad. So it does remind me a lot of like what we describe as the concept of karma. Like if you do bad things will happen to you, type thing. So in the case of Janet Moses, the Makutu was believed to be influenced through the loss of her grandmother and relationship problems with her partner, the father of her 2 children, along with the fact that the family had stolen a concrete lion statue from a hotel in a nearby town. So they stole this lion statue because the family has a lion as their family emblem. So
Right.
it's like considered like symbolic of their family, with like at least one of the member having a tattoo of a lion with the words "Family United" over it. So basically, Janet Moses, she was very like down. She was very depressed. She wasn't herself, and all of her family were very worried about her. And her family was very close knit. Like they literally had like their own sports team and shit. Like they like, and all of them. There was like quite a lot of like extended family who were all really close. So basically, the family consulted a kaumatua, which is like the equivalent of like an elder in the community of like the married
Which-
people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's this guy called Timi Rahi, and he prayed for Janet and blessed her. He also advised the family to return the lion, which they did. They returned it to the hotel that they stole it from. He told it that it was their responsibility to heal her and give her support. After he left, a prolonged Makutu lifting was performed by her predominantly maternal family at the home of Janet's late grandmother. So basically, Janet's grandmother lived in like this, basically like a little chalet type building. They call it a flat, but I feel like that's like a New Zealand term for what they would call it. But it basically reminds me of like almost like those like chalets you get at like a caravan park, like where they're like basically the same size as a caravan, but they're on land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And this is where her grandmother lived, so her grandfather was living there. And basically all of her maternal family had like come there to help her and perform what's known as a lifting, which is basically their equivalent of an exorcism. So it isn't clear who suggested that Janet Moses was possessed. So basically the Makutu concept isn't necessarily possession. That's sort of an interpretation that some of the people involved seem to put on it. In the documentary there's an interview with this 14-year-old girl who was involved, and she said, in her words, she said that Janet was possessed by a demon, which isn't actually accurate to the concept of Makutu. Makutu is just like, it is like having a bad aura around you because bad has happened, you've done bad type thing.
Yeah.
It's also suggested that like if a family as a whole, if one of them did something bad, it would come back on the weakest member of the family. So if you're in a group family and there was like an elderly or sick member of your family and one of you did something bad, it could potentially come back on them. It was basically used as like a form of like kind of how religions were always used as basically a form of like the modern day equivalent of laws, where they encouraged good behaviour and discouraged like what we would consider illegal nowadays, but at the time they would just consider like a bad thing to do, you know. So it's kind of that sort of idea that seems quite common in a lot of religions. So basically they started performing this ceremony, and it was improvised as none of them actually had any knowledge of how to perform a lifting. Like, they didn't exactly know how to do it, but they had this their family had this connection with water. The grandmother who had passed away, who Janet was very close to, she used to actually help take care of her. She used to always perform these little like blessings with water, like kind of like what like a priest would do with holy water, where like you splash water on each other and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what their grandmother would do, which is like an unusual tradition because that isn't actually necessarily considered part of the like Maori religion, that like water is used. That's more of like a Western influence from like the holy water side of things. It's kind of a weird religion because it has a lot of influences from like Christianity and other religions as well that like came over to New Zealand when like the colonization was happening there. So like the native Maori people were, their religion was sort of mixed with the religion of the people that were coming over and settling there to make this modern day equivalent. So basically they were splashing water on her throughout this ceremony to like try and get this demon out of her, and they were using so much water that literally like the entire flat was flooded, and they literally they made a small hole in it and to drain the water out from the building. Literally, like, one of the guys went into the kitchen and just like hammered a hole in the ground so that all the water would go out. It's ridiculous. Also, their eyes, they considered you possessed because you could see in the eyes, like you could see things moving around, and they thought that was like the evil in you. So they were literally like picking at each other's eyes to try and get this demon out. Because they'd all been locked together in this building, and they believed that like the evil was coming out of her and getting into other people. So there became a point where they weren't just trying to get it out of Janet, they were also trying to get it out of all of the other people that had like, basically, if anyone spoke against what they were doing, if anyone was like, I don't feel like this is the right thing to do, they would think that they were possessed. So then they would turn on those people and they would start performing the same things on them. They would like say that they would see this stuff in their eyes. Basically, so the neighbours heard rhythmic stomping in the building throughout the night. So they were like chanting and like stomping together as a group. In the documentary, it's shown of them like circling her and they're like chanting this phrase constantly. I think they were saying like "go with peace," like just that over and over again, and like splashing water at Janet and just stomping in a circle around her. And at or around 8 a.m. on the 12th of October 2007, Janet Moses died of drowning. So they literally drowned her because they were holding her down and splashing water on her face, and it was getting into her lungs, and she literally drowned out of water on land because her lungs were full, and she was showing the symptoms of drowning, which is like your body hardening up, like your jaw locking, and they saw that as the demon trying to stop them from giving her the water. So literally her jaw had locked to stop more water getting in, and they had pried her jaw open to put more water in. So yeah, it's really odd. A few things to note about this whole thing is basically she would, when she was up and walking around, she would want to go in the shower, like a lot, and she would just have water running on her in the shower, but she wanted to have hot water on her. I guess it's just like a thing when you're in that state of mind, you just want to like be like in more like a meditative place, you know. You want to just like when you're feeling shit, sometimes like having a shower can help, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, and she was doing that, and they at some point were like, oh, she shouldn't be doing this, like trying to stop her from doing it. And at one point they were literally like holding her in the shower with cold water flowing onto her, and she would actually throw up in the shower because, like, she was, like, I guess in such a stressful situation, she'd have this water put on her face. So she was throwing up in the shower, and they believed that that was the demon coming out of her. The Makutu coming out of her, this bad spirit coming out of her. So they would, like, clean it up. But then they decided, because this had happened, that they couldn't go back into the bathroom. So there was one bathroom in this building with all these people, and none of them could use the toilet. So they would literally get, like, taking shits in, like, diapers and stuff, or just in towels, or some of them were literally just, like, defecating themselves and urinating in their own clothes that they were wearing. So they were all just locked in this, like, chalet, just, like, covered in filth, with water everywhere. So basically, like, I think that the thing that was going on with the eyes was probably pink eye, because there was all this, like, feces and water, and, like, you're at some point you're gonna get pink eye if you're, like, messing around with that sort of stuff and making contact with your eyes, and then you're passing it on to each other. But yeah, the interesting thing about it is all of the family that were involved genuinely believed that they were helping her. There wasn't any ill intent. They weren't trying to kill her. It wasn't like some sort of, like, big conspiracy that, oh, we're going to come together as a family and murder her because we hate her, she's dishonoured us or something. It's nothing like that.
They were just so superstitious.
Yeah, they were very superstitious, and it was also, like, because they were all locked in this building together, it was, like, sort of like a mass hysteria where they became so stuck on this idea that it was literally all they had in that environment, that it was all they cared about. Like, literally, people, like, weren't going to work or anything. Like, a lot of the people had jobs, but they just weren't going. They were just all staying here, locked in this house, trying to help her, trying to get her out of this Makutu, or possession, as you want to call that.
Run me through this again. They stole a lion statue.
Yeah, so they had a party at this hotel.
Yeah.
And they, like, were all there, like, drinking and stuff, and one of the family was like, oh, those lions, like, they're very symbolic of our family, and one of them decided to steal it, just put it in the back of their car and drove it home. And that...
how big were these lions?
They weren't very big, but probably about, like, 3 foot tall. Like, not a very big statue, but they were concrete, and they brought them home, and they actually kept the lion statue in the home that Janet was at. So it was there before she had been locked in there. And she had, like, this, like, almost, like, obsession with it as well. And they were describing her when she was, like, supposedly possessed. They were describing her as being very lion-like, because she was, like, clawing at them, and she was, like, screaming at them and, like, roaring at them. And they seem to have made this connection between the two, between the lion and Janet.
So because they're, like, another form of witchcraft, right? They stole this lion, and they believed because of the, like, Wiccan Reedy, which is what you do bad goes to you. They thought a demon got inside her because they stole it.
Yeah, basically, like, with the Maori religion, that the Makutu is basically their equivalent of being a sinner. You know, if you've done sins, bad things will happen to you. It's basically that equivalent. So they believed that because they'd stolen that statue, that's why this was happening to Janet, because they'd done bad.
Right.
And that's what the priest advised them to do. He said, you know, you should take this back. I'm going to bless her. I'm going to pray for her. But then he had to leave. And I think, like, when all the other stuff, like, it sort of had escalated to where they believed she was possessed, I don't think he was actually in town, this priest guy that they had previously advised. He'd gone out of town. Because if he had actually advised them, he would have told them not to do what they were doing, you know? But they didn't really know what was going on. There's quite a lot of controversy around it, this case, because it had given attention to the concept of Makutu in the Maori religion, which up until then wasn't really known about. During the case, they literally have like practitioners of the religion and stuff coming in as witnesses to describe how you would actually deal with the situation, and like how what they were doing wasn't right, you know, because people were thinking, oh, like these Maori people, these natives have like, you know, they've done this because of their like backward way of thinking or whatever, but people were having to step forward to defend their practices because they wouldn't have actually condoned that. But that's why it's interesting, because it was such like they weren't doing anything that they were recommended to do by a priest or anything, by their local elder. They were doing what they thought they had to do based on their own knowledge, which wasn't, you know, they didn't know a lot about this lifting process. They were just doing what they thought they had to do, what they decided to do in this like hotbox situation where they're all going off each other's anxieties, and they just got into this weird place where they thought that's what they had to do.
Yeah.
But it's a shame, because like they did genuinely care about her. It was their inexperience and neglect that led to Janet dying. Several of the people in the family were charged for manslaughter, and also many were charged with child neglect, because the whole time the people of the family that had come, they'd brought their kids with them. So there were kids involved in this whole thing as well, and they were just locked away in a room when like all of the like more like adult concepts of it were being done, I guess. So there was just a bunch of kids locked in the room with like one of their like aunties or whatever looking after them, and they were just in there like shitting themselves, just like covered in their own fecal matter, covered in their own urine. It's just horrible to think about. But yeah, it's kind of like really strange, because they genuinely were like trying to help her, but they just didn't know what they were doing, and they just it's a good example of what can happen when people are like trapped in a space together, you know, and they just like roll off each other's insecurities, like fears, and they sort of just go with it. Also, as I mentioned, other people had the same things performed on them while they were there. There was a 14-year-old girl who they claimed to have seen the demons in her eyes. So they were picking at her eyes. Her eyes were all bruised from where they were trying to pick this demon out.
Mate, that's weird.
And
eyes freak me out.
Yeah, and they're literally like, they were doing the same thing they were doing with Janet, where they were holding her down and pouring water on her, and she had like, they were literally like, she was like covered in bruises and injuries. She was quite severely injured from the whole thing as well. But yeah, like there were points where they were performing like prayers and stuff, and I think because as part of their prayers, like in the documentary, it shows them saying that if you have any doubt, so like if anyone in the process, in the prayer, has doubt about what they're doing, it won't work. So I think that is a lot of like what went into their minds. They all believed that if they said anything against it, then they were basically failing the rest of their family by not allowing it to happen, you know. So there's a lot of people who were against it, a lot of people who were involved with like, this isn't right. I think at one point Janet's father, who wasn't involved with this at all, he had come to visit her and tried to take her away, but she wouldn't go with him. And later he returned, but by the point he had returned, she had already died. And he didn't know about it until quite a while after her death, I believe.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting documentary. I highly recommend it on Netflix right now.
What's the name of the documentary again?
It's called Belief, the Possession of Janet Moses.
No, might check that one out, I think.
Yeah, really, really interesting. But yeah, I know it's probably not the like traditional demon concept, but I think it's quite interesting seeing other cultures' interpretations of like good and evil and their sort of equivalent of a demon. Because a lot of people were referring to it as a demon, but a lot of that was based on misinformation for the Maori religion, because that isn't really what it's supposed to be. Like Makutu isn't supposed to be a demon. It's supposed to be like a curse or, like a bad spirit, as opposed to like a demon. You know, it's not quite the same concept, but because of these mixtures of cultures, they sort of, like a lot of the people involved had started calling it a demon, because that's kind of what in modern day culture we would refer to that as, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's a strange one.
I found it interesting that they basically flooded the apartment out, essentially. So where were they getting all this water from?
Just from the tap.
The bath running or something?
Just from the tap in the kitchen. And there was literally like a point where they just left the tap running and it was just overflowing and it's flooding the whole place. It wasn't actually like an apartment, it was literally like on the ground. I keep calling it an apartment because they call it a flat. Yeah. I kept calling it a flat because that's like the New Zealand term, I guess, for these little buildings, like what we'd probably call like a chalet. They call it a flat for whatever reason. That's what they kept referring to it as in the documentary. But yeah, it's crazy to watch, and they have like the documentary's mostly done with reenactments, but it's all based on the actual like interviews with the people involved, the accounts of like the neighbours and stuff who would literally hear the chanting and the stomping at night. And after all this happened, there was basically this like little tight-knit community of these like flats, and they basically agreed that they were going to knock down this building. So today there's just this empty patch in like this like little campsite type thing where this building was, because they like believe that, you know, that nothing should happen there now type thing. It's kind of like a bad omens on that land, so they decided to get rid of the building so that couldn't happen again type thing.
Yeah, just leave it totally blank.
Yeah.
I mean, in regards to this, was anybody like sentenced or anything by the police or anything like that?
It was a very lengthy procedure because of the fact that it was to do with this Maori tradition that not a lot was known about. It says on the Wikipedia article about it that 101 witnesses were called, many of them giving testimonies relating to cultural and religious practices. So a lot of the stuff to do with this trial was about them trying to get information on this Makusu lifting and what was being done. Like, was it actually considered a traditional thing to be done, you know? But it wasn't. It wasn't how you're supposed to do it, you know? So they kind of just did it on their own ignorance, and because of that, she ended up dying.
Wow.
And she was a mother of 2 children as well, and she left those children behind.
I mean, are they in the documentary at all? Do they actually speak or anything themselves?
No, they were so young at the time of it happening. I think like one of them was like a baby, one of them was a toddler.
Fair.
But yeah, I think they were literally still there though, in the building, but in the rooms, locked away with all the other young children. It must have been hell being in there, because it would have been so hot as well, because they were just all locked in this like small building together. It's just horrendous to think about.
In regards to her, like, to her eyes sort of going pinkish or reddish or bloodshot or whatnot, I sort of relate to that because my left eye, when it gets a bit irritated, or if I give it a bit of a scratch or something, you know, if I give it a bit of an itch, it does
she
sort
might have
of
just
go
been
reddish.
Straight up tired from the consistent everything.
Yeah,
a lot of it could have been hallucinations, because a lot of them didn't sleep like hardly at all. There was some of them they believe were literally like up for like an entire day doing this, like 24 hours, like you know, up trying to do this ritual. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was hallucinations, but also like I said, I reckon that it's highly possible that a lot of them had pink eye based on the fact that they were all like covered in waste and there was water everywhere. Like, it would be so easy to get it in your eyes, especially if you're splashing water at people, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
So you could look at each other's eyes and like you've got like the redness in your eyes of where you're starting to get pink eye, and they could like think that that's the demon.
Plus, it wouldn't be constant fresh water. They might be just crouching down and getting some fucking
well, they were literally like
floor water,
getting it out of the tap, but then they were splashing it with their hands, and I don't think all their
Right.
hands were clean. You know.
No. But I doubt they're constantly running to tap, chucking, running to tap, chucking.
Well, there's a bit in the documentary where they show them literally like passing pots.
Right.
So they all would like have like a bowl in the hands, and they were like passing bowls from the sink to where she was, where they were pouring these bowls of water over her. Yeah, it really got intense. And then, you know, that also when they were interviewing, like there was this uncle, he was sort of considered the head of the family. They would like often get together, the whole family would, whenever like there was something going on. So like if one of their relatives was unwell or something, they would gather up together, all of the family, and talk about what they were going to do. And he was very much like, he was there and he was leading a lot of stuff that was going on. And when they interviewed him, they asked him, did you realise, like when did you realise that she was drowning? And he was literally like, I didn't realise. He didn't realise that she was drowning at all. And then they also asked him, did you realise that she died? When did you realise that? And he hadn't realised at all. Until like the next day. They didn't realise that she was actually dead.
Weird.
When did this whole event happen again?
2007.
Damn.
Yeah. Pretty recent in the grand scheme of things.
Just surprises me that there's people still so superstitious around, even as as late as 2007. You know, it's just
well,
never ceases to amaze.
it is literally the level of like the Salem witch trials.
Yeah.
It is like that
Well,
level of it.
witches are still going strong.
Yeah, but I mean, in the Salem witch trials, like the sort of things they would do to people to try and cure them of like being a witch or having a curse on them. It's the same sort of level of that, you know, and it's happening in the, you know, in the modern day. It's kind of crazy. Sorry, Reese, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like perhaps the uncle guy or the main leader of it all was the one that was possessed.
Maybe.
Just get like mob mentality to get them all
Yeah.
to
Well,
sacrifice the girl for their own
they
goal
literally,
or his own goal.
at points, they did believe that like a lot of them were possessed. Like they kept seeing this thing in each other's eyes, and they would perform the same procedure on other people while they were throwing water over Janet. So like she was the main focus, but there were other people that were also having the same thing performed on them at the same time because they believed that they had become possessed from her. There's a point where they said, you know, don't look into her eyes. If you look into her eyes, she'll pass it on to you. So they literally like
Yeah,
were
see-
avoiding eye contact with her.
Yeah, see, I think that's a bit of BS, and I would say the uncle guy was probably the only one possessed, and say was getting a human sacrifice.
I
Maybe.
don't know. It's weird.
It's just another look, like another viewpoint on it, sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Like,
Well, I think they, some of them did feel like that. They did feel like they were all possessed. I think in the documentary someone literally said that I think we were all possessed. I think we were all consumed in it. But I don't know.
I'd say it's probably, as I say, just the uncle, and it was just mob mentality to get the rest on board and make it seem and try and get away with a sacrifice.
I don't know. But yeah.
Wow.
When it comes to like down to like demons and demonic sort of stuff in general, like, does anyone here actually believe in it at all?
No.
I think I like believe in a degree to like karma. But I don't think I believe in like the concept of like an outside being like a demon.
See,
I don't believe in karma, but I do reference it all the time.
I feel like a demon as a concept is like too heavily religion based, and for that reason I don't have a lot of faith in it. But yeah.
I think it could possibly be something, but I don't think it's common, as people say.
I feel like if there was to be a concept of a demon, it would probably be like a vengeful spirit. Is like a bad
Yeah,
a
I agree
bad
with
ghost, basically. You know.
That's gone too far.
Yeah,
kind of
like
thing.
a ghost that like had some sort of grudge when it died, and
Yeah,
because of that, it decided to go down a darker path in the afterlife.
I agree with that. Yeah, I can go with
But
that.
like the concept of like a red guy with horns, like
Yeah,
taking over a person and fucking around, that seems a bit too far fetched for me.
yeah,
Yeah. See, for me, like a person more towards science stuff.
Mm.
I could see them being some like creatures of like another dimension, which have like somehow crossed over and been seen. And then after being seen or whatnot, we've just had that idea on our head, and then when someone, like, I'd say most of like these demonic things which have happened have just been like mental disorders or
Yeah.
something. And where we've got that demon sort of like thing ingrained in us from religions and
Yeah.
mythology and stuff like that, it's just to fuel that. And you have the people who believe in it from their religions, from their stuff what they've listened to growing up, from their parents, their grandparents. It's just, I would say it is just mental disorders and
Yeah.
just being perceived as possessions.
I think that's definitely the case, because when you think about our knowledge of the concept of mental disorders, of even things like depression and anxiety, I feel like those are only more of a recent thing that they're like widely accepted. Definitely, like back when people were supposedly possessed, I think a lot of that was just people who had a rough time, or they had some sort of condition that caused them to behave that way. I mean, like think of things like multiple personality disorder.
Yes, friend. Yeah,
That
yeah.
is a very real thing that does exist. But if you didn't know about that, you could definitely see that as
Yeah.
possession.
Yeah, because like a lot of like these demonic possession things, where you get like the person who they believe to be possessed, they have like the gaps in their memories from when they are sort of in this possessed mode. That happens with people with like schizophrenia, and
Yeah.
that like when they go into their other personalities, they don't remember it
Yeah.
in their like main personality or one of their other personalities.
Yeah.
So,
And with multiple personalities, I mean, you can have additional personalities that are male and you're female. So when that person's in control, you'll probably sound more male even though you're female. So you can imagine that being interpreted as a demon possession quite easily. Like when we think of it, we probably think of like the exorcism. The Exorcist, sorry. In that film, there's bits where she's literally talking like a man, and I guess that is sort of like the interpretation of it. That is how that happens.
Well, there's a thing that I watched. Going back, I can't remember if it's The Conjuring or something else, but yeah, it is. It's the what's it called again? What did I say that guy was called?
We'll go.
Beelzebub?
No,
Beelzebub.
no.
Beelzebub.
The what did I call him? The Thingy Man. The
Crooked Man.
Crooked Man. Yeah. There's a bit where they record the girl speaking,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm whatever, and I'm the old man in the house."
The Crooked Man.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
But like, it could be the girl putting her voice on.
Yeah, but it could literally be she has multiple personalities, and that's the other personality coming through. Because a lot of the time, also, like, there are different triggers for these other personalities coming out, like being on a traumatic experience or something. So, like, a lot of times when people are supposedly under possession, it's like at night and things like that. So, like, they'll wake up in the middle of the night and they're here screaming, and like go into like the child's room and find them supposedly possessed, Whereas it could have been they just had a bad nightmare or something, or they saw something, like they could have had sleep paralysis or something like that, and that triggered them to go into this state of like putting on a persona that sounded like a man or sounded like a demon or something, and that's how they believe they were possessed.
My son has had a few
The only-
those instances where he, screams in the middle of the night, but yeah, we just leave him to it.
The only thing you can't explain away with that though is like in some of these demonic possession cases where they're speaking a language what they don't know.
Yeah.
Like some of them end up speaking like old Latin or
Yeah.
like a language they shouldn't know or haven't come into contact with.
Yeah, I have heard of cases of that.
I think even some of them it's like talking backwards as well or something.
But I have heard of cases where, it's literally, it can be because of a brain injury. Your brain just works in a different way, and that's how. But in the case of like learning an entirely new language, I don't think it's possible in that regard. But like talking backwards or something like that, that could potentially happen from a brain injury. I don't know if like the validity of like people speaking different languages from being possessed, but I don't know. I haven't looked into that before, but I have heard of that before. Yeah.
What was that famous possession that happened in the UK during the 70s to some young girl?
That's what I was talking about,
Yeah.
Chris.
Is that the one?
The
Yeah.
Enfield poltergeist.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, you mean the ones which have...
The Conjuring. Conjuring 2.
I haven't seen
Was
any of
that-
those movies, so.
See, I used to live in Enfield and I remember driving past that house.
Did
Yeah,
look
she-
spooky.
She speaks and stuff. I'll see if I can find a clip.
Yeah.
Did look
The-
spooky, that house, Reese.
Not really, because from what I remember hearing about it, most of it was like faked anyway.
I remember watching a documentary about it yonks ago, and they basically just put it all down to like cases of schizophrenia, and her parents weren't helping the situation, and etc. like that. So
I think that's what a lot of the
And,
older cases are, because we had so little understanding of the human brain. We didn't know that these disorders and these mental conditions existed. It makes sense that based on that, you see those things and you would interpret them in a certain way. It's like how when back in the day, when like in the middle of the night you'd hear a weird noise, you couldn't explain it as like being like an animal that exists in nature. It's like with foxes, like the fox call. People didn't know that was what foxes sounded like. So when they
Yeah.
heard that, they would literally think it was like a demon or like.
It sounds like a little girl screaming.
It does sound really weird, and you wouldn't think that a fox would make that noise, but it does.
Well, it's like the same as like on like the old like maps with like the ocean. They'd have like the like tusked board looking like like big fish. All those are like, I think today they're mostly been done, or they've thought these creatures existed because of washed up whale bones. Their like lower jaws would be split apart, looking like two
Yeah.
tusks.
The whole globsters.
Yeah, so like, it's just like stuff we know today. If they knew back then, we wouldn't have all this sort of
Yeah.
like interesting sort of.
Well,
I'm gonna show you guys.
Well-
I'm gonna show you guys a creepy possession video that I remember watching.
okay.
It's pretty spooky.
Is it just going to be a
Okay, I'm on.
Zelfine video?
I wish.
Yeah, I wish.
She'll be on the podcast one day. Don't worry. Everyone on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty creepy. I advise watch with your parents. She's not out of her face. Look, if you look, there's a ghost watching in as well.
Central Station.
See, there it is.
The,
She's
man
alright for a
recorded it, innit?
second.
Oh, schizophrenia's kicking
I don't know
back
why
in.
she threw her necklace off. That was weird.
You see the exact moment she gets possessed.
Self-defense mechanism.
I like her fucking snake hand. Oh, he's eating Pringles.
Chill.
Let him have his Pringles.
Chill. Whoa. Shit.
Oh, don't knock a man's Pringles out of his hand.
He's just taking it. I think he gets a bit angry now though.
Hey. She's probably fucking possessed. No, she's probably.
He's gonna beat the demon out of her ass.
Call,
She's not possessed anymore.
Call emergency shit. Dog.
Cool emergency. Fucking hell.
Oh man, she got knocked out.
Nah, I'm playing on that bullshit.
Whoa, the male's a victim here.
What the fuck?
So Reese,
Wait.
do you think
Can we talk? Can we talk about the bit where the fucking woman watching was like, "Whoa, dude, it's fine. She's probably possessed." Like really
Who
casual.
even uses that as a valid excuse or a reason? Like, if you saw two teenagers kicking the crap out of each other in the street, you won't be like, "Well, stop it. You're probably possessed."
so? Reese, do you reckon old Beelzebub sent out an agent to get her?
But what would be the point in possessing her?
Take over those
To nick
Pringles.
that guy's Pringles?
Yeah.
The demon was hungry for
goodness.
Pringles.
How do you know they don't have Pringles in hell? Like, how do you know there's not a shortage?
Yeah, they don't have them in hell.
If there was Pringles in hell, it wouldn't be hell.
They do have
Maybe
them.
the-
Now, if
but
there
they're
was
really
no
bad
Pringles,
flavours.
it would be hell.
Maybe the
Yeah,
necklace
what if
was
they were like-
protection, and when she took it off, she just went nuts.
She was just fucking off her head.
She was drunk, drugs, schizophrenia, so many
She was drunk drugs.
things.
Maybe the necklace was protection. Maybe it was a cross, and she was really drunk and she took the cross off, but she didn't realize what she was doing, and then the demon took over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to get a good look at see what was on the end, and to me it looked like a heart locket type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as she dropped it, the demon was
Definitely
like,
wasn't crap.
"Gotcha, bitch!"
Yeah.
He just pounced for her, you know.
Oi,
And then
you see that guy sitting next to you? Fucking get him!
get his Pringles.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was the guy was like beaten down even more than she was. Although she did look like she was KO'd, so
Yeah. She did.
that was a falcon punch.
she
I'm
did-
sure
she
that
did the
he
big-
landed on her.
Big trip over the chair. I reckon that got the demon out.
Demon thought, "Whoa, this is too real for me now. I'm out of here."
Secret technique.
packing
Big
me
trip
bags.
over chair.
Such a technique is
The
not
only thing I
pursued.
didn't like about that clip was the fact that the guy who got beat on them first was the one who then got fucking tackled to the ground by them because he was fucking defending himself. Like,
He wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't really defending himself.
No, at that stage.
It's the
well,
kind of.
he took a beating
It's the kind
and
of
then
like
like
the white rage kind of thing that you get.
I don't know, if somebody came out of nowhere and just started grabbing you by the hair, punching you, would you be like, "Oh, it's alright, mate, I'll just walk
Well,
away"?
It's
not
that,
too
I
bad."
wouldn't-
it's that he doesn't
Sorry, you carry on.
carry on.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he doesn't do it in the moment. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If he was trying to like push her away when she was beaten,
Yeah.
it's that he was like, "Ow, this actually hurts" afterwards.
Yeah.
And then you get that like white rage where you're like, "Nah, fuck it, I'm going in."
I mean,
She'd
there is
walked
a moment
away.
where he tries fighting her
She
off.
had walked away, and then
Well,
he had gotten up and come
he
back
got
to her.
up.
Yeah.
He got up and confronted her, sort of like to be like, "What the fuck were you doing?" sort of thing. Then she started kicking him again. Like,
She pushed him. He pushed her in the head first, and then she kicked.
yeah, but she started it, like sort of thing. Like,
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
if you're gonna start sync, at least try and finish it rather than just fucking walking off.
But
and-
that's what we're saying. It's like
Then
it's
it
like
didn't
he
happen.
should have
It's-
tried hitting her back when he was when she was doing it. kind of
Well,
thing.
But don't forget,
shouldn't
he had
have.
he only had one hand because he was holding his Pringles as well. You don't just drop
Why-
your Pringles.
But it's the fact
Yeah.
that
Why-
he had the blank rage afterwards, and the people said, "Don't." She's probably out of her face.
She's possessed.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like, John, why would you say he shouldn't have?
Well,
done
it I'm saying on a completely legal stance, if
Yeah,
someone's
yeah.
assaulted you, you shouldn't respond with violence because then
respond,
you're
yeah.
just as culpable. You need to not respond with violence and report them. I mean, in that situation, there were so many witnesses as well. As soon as he had taken violence towards her, he was just as bad.
No, I completely
In
agree
the
with you.
eye,
I was
in the
just-
eye of the authorities. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why when the
Yeah,
police came
yeah.
on, they immediately tackled him because I think she'd already been knocked down at that stage.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's the fact that I see it as fighting back at the moment is better than lashing out afterwards.
yeah. I mean, sometimes it happens as a
So
primal reaction.
what you're saying is he should have just let her walk away and then got away with it.
No, I'm saying he should have reported it,
Because
but
yeah,
in
but like
attacking her, he's probably gotten into shit for that.
yeah, but like that's the thing. Like he probably we don't know what happened, but like he could have been like trying to get her to stop her from going away, so he could get shit done to her by the authorities. But then she lashed back, and he lashed back after she lashed back at
Yeah,
him.
I guess
I'm saying
so.
that he didn't need to because it was on a busy train and there were so many witnesses to the act. All he had to.
But I think so. If she went off and got off the train or whatever and got away, how was he supposed
Well,
to?
that
have done
didn't
anything to
happen.
her? He would have then just stood there and then
Well,
got
the police
fucking-
came.
took a beating for no reason.
So I'm assuming
They came after the they came on after.
yeah, they came on
After
after.
the ruckus, what he then caused.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, why did they just suddenly appear? I assume someone had already reported it at the stage when all this started kicking off.
Like
So
press the silent alarm thing.
yeah, if they just waited, if he had just waited, then they could have just come and taken her away. But the reason they
Depending on the station, I think a lot of them do have like guards. Things they
Yeah.
don't look like police. They just look like
Yeah.
fucking basic ass guards.
But either way, they're the authority in that situation to take action. I think that
So from what I saw of it, what I would have guessed was they were on the platform doing their like usual rounds, guard and shit, and then saw a guy beating on a woman and dealt with that.
But it's like saying like he should have defended himself at the moment she was hitting him at the first place. It's that he got up, attacked her. Men are like through the generations have been like horrible to women. It's that he saw her
yeah,
going after her in a blind rage that he went for him first.
it's not even necessarily that. I think the thing is, like, assaulting someone is a crime, and if someone's assaulted you and your response is to assault them back, you're still committing a crime.
Yeah.
That's what it is at the end of the day.
It's like the whole fighting your burglar in your own house kind of thing.
Well, depending on where you are, yeah. I mean, like, I think there are states in America where you are completely within your right to just kill them, and that isn't illegal. But yeah, I think it's difficult because when I used to work in the pub, I knew a lot of people around the area, and I knew this one guy who had seen a couple who were having a fight, and he had intervened to try and defend the woman, and in the process he assaulted the man, and he went to jail for that. Because he had assaulted a man. At the end of the day, that's what happened. I think the couple actually were both against him because once they'd sobered up, they were like, oh yeah, we were having an argument, but I mean, this guy came in and assaulted him
Yeah.
and did more
They just
harm.
leave people to do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, what you should do in that situation is you should report it to the police, and I guess try and stop any physical violence happening, but do not at any case.
Because like if
resort
you
to
get in the way of it and end up getting hit and then you hit back, you'll
yeah,
again,
well, that's the
you'll
thing.
be
You
one
you
wrong
can't
still.
hit back. That's the way it works in this country. Is assault is assault.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here because it's meant to be a demon episode.
Mate, we're talking about the true
Yeah, we were
demons.
talking about
That's
that demon
people.
possession.
That's people. People are
Yeah,
the true
people
demons.
are the true demons.
Demons
No,
inside.
alcohol is what brings it out
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
most of the time,
so
as we saw in that woman.
Yeah.
what? So demons? Does anyone believe,
No.
or is it the bad ghosts?
Yeah, I think that's more.
Nah, I
misleading.
don't believe in any.
Based on that
anything.
footage, I think that they do exist, and they have a hunger for Pringles.
We
That
all have
could
our
be a
inner
good
demons,
valid,
but
yeah.
Yeah. Not actual demons.
not actual demons. No. Like as I said, like it could have been, as far as we know, like the actual images what we had for the original demons could have been like fucking creatures from another dimension, aliens, just
Well, it's all
You
it's
think
all biblical, isn't it?
not supernatural. Well, aliens could have come through all that time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have been come and gone by now. Like civilization could have ended.
Also,
Or they could be.
I haven't seen them since.
it's such a thing with modern day religions where they're just retellings of older religions. It's like a lot of our holidays and stuff in Christianity are based on like pagan traditions. And basically a new religion will take over, take all the ideas from the last religion that was prominent in the area and claim that they came up with the ideas. It's like the word demon, originally it wasn't a negative term. I think it just meant like spirit. It wasn't like considered a bad thing. It wasn't until later interpretations.
Ancient Greeks it was from, wasn't
Yeah, I
it?
think so. And at the time, it wasn't considered a negative term. It was just a term for a thing. Same with like, I was talking to my partner today, how someone had named their child Lucifer, and
Yeah.
I remember
yeah, they had named their child Lucifer, and like the woman who, the like registered woman who like was going to allow it, she said that you couldn't do it because it wasn't legal. It is legal, but in certain places in the world they have made it illegal to name children certain things. I think she gave us an example. New Zealand, you're not allowed to call your child Lucifer in New Zealand, but the original like Lucifer just means light bringer, and it's based on like this it like meaning of the word. Like it originally wasn't a name for a thing, it was just a word that meant light bringer. And then in later religions like in Christianity and stuff, we mistranslated things to assign Lucifer the word as a name for a certain individual, and since then it's been associated with another name for Satan. So it's stupid because it's just a word. But
Like Beelzebub.
yeah, Beelzebub. Which I think means like king of the flies or some shit.
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Which you can see why like these names, like a name like Beelzebub, king of the flies, like you can see why that word might be interpreted as a bad thing. But Lightbringer, that's a bit of a fucking weird one, isn't it? But that's how it is.
It's
That's
actually Ufa.
But it's just weird how, like, you know, through religion, it seems to always be religion. I feel like we always end up coming back to religion when it comes to having something to blame. But it seems like a thing that religion takes a certain thing and interprets it in the wrong way that it was originally meant to be interpreted. And that leads to our modern day equivalents and definitions of things. Like a lot of our modern day definitions of things are based on Christianity. And it's like, it's kind of weird when you think about it.
I reckon Wiccan and pagans got a lot of stuff to do with everything as well.
Well, like I was saying earlier, like the modern practices of Christianity are based on pagan traditions.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally had religions that I think they had a Christmas equivalent, and when Christianity became the most prominent religion, they just took the old holiday and gave it a different name and gave a different reason for it happening. It's like awfully convenient that this same date also happened to be when Jesus was born, where this pre-existing religion already had a holiday for a completely unrelated thing. Weird how that works. It just goes to show that all like the religions are just like a load of made up shit. It's like it's why I don't believe religion, because there's far too many coincidences. There's far too much stuff that doesn't make any sense. But I understand it had a purpose. Like it used to be the equivalent of laws, but you know, today I don't feel like it has a place as much.
No. Alright, so shall we call it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone joining.
it's alright, Oliver.
I think
It was a wild trip.
a little bit, got a bit crazy there. I think on Saturday, if everyone turns up, we'll set up the mics and we'll do a together podcast
Mm-hmm.
where we
Try
can.
and get everyone who's there involved.
Yeah, we'll do something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like,
Have to think of what to.
yeah, I need to figure out a lot of editing stuff, like how to put 2 mics together on like one PC kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it
it
out.
out.
All right, so thank you for joining me, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, cool, mate.
Bye,
Take it
shackers.
easy.
Keep on shacking.
Oh,
Don't stop. But shacking.
remember,
Mm.
turn the taps off and hide the dolls. Farewell.
Make a hole in your
Bye.
kitchen floor.
Oh.
Bye.